My name is Ramesh Saxena. In this clip, I'm going to speak about Boniface Mwangi. So, Boniface Mwangi is a Kenyan activist who came to the limelight as a photographer, having taken pictures of events that happened in Kenya's post-election violence, that is 2007-2008. Over time, Boniface Mwangi has been known to champion for human rights and to speak loudly against corruption and corrupt leaders that we have in Kenya. So 1 week ago, Boniface Mwangi surprised Kenyans by declaring that he'll be vying for the presidency come 2027. So this declaration was done on 27th August at Ufungamano House, where Boniface Mwangi, clad in Kenyan flag colors, declared that he will courageously vie to be the President of the Republic of Kenya. Now, this is an announcement that took so many Kenyans by surprise because Boniface Mwangi and his fellow activists were thought or perceived to be aligned to the likes of Koiti Omtata and David Maraga. And so the big question that was lingering on the minds of those who saw this declaration was that what was happening in the camp of these individuals that we thought that were aligned together. You know, if you look at Okoiti Okiya Omtata, who is also vying to be president of the Republic of Kenya, then you see that he's surrounded by a clique or a group of activists or champions of human rights and champions of anti-corruption chants within Kenya's public space. And if you look at David Maraga, the same thing happened. He also has a clique of individuals who like him for having championed for the rule of law to govern in Kenya's space. And so when Kenyans saw Boniface Mwangi, the big question was, why would Boniface Mwangi join Okiya Omtata or David Maraga and form a formidable force if at all we are going to, if at all they are claiming to want to change the status quo? Many analysts have claimed that getting into the race for the 2027 elections by Boniface Mwangi is a move that will lead to fragmentation of individuals of like minds. In short, Kenyans are saying that if Boniface Mwangi vies till 2027, if Okoiti Okiya Omtata vies until 2027, and David Maraga also vies till 2027, then we shall see a fragmentation of Kenyans who are pro-human rights, Kenyans who are pro-good governance, some going to Boniface Mwangi because of his works or activism around human rights and around the fight against corruption in Kenya. Some individuals will also rally behind Okoiti Omtata because of having championed for good governance within the public space, having been a great senator while he's been serving the people of Busia, and having publicly fought for the people of Kenya in law courts and on public platforms. Other individuals will also go to Justice David Kenani Maraga, the Chief Justice Emeritus of the Republic of Kenya. He is famed for having overturned presidential elections, and many Kenyans look to him and point to him when asked about the upright or a man that can be trusted who is in the race. And so if we have these three individuals, then it means that Kenyans of goodwill or Kenyans who claim to be pro-good governance will be fragmented into these three factions, which only means that the numbers are watered down. So coming to the launch of Boniface Mwangi's presidential bid, I have to say that his launch did not get the hype that maybe he had in mind that it would get. Most individuals actually learned about his launch online. Maybe it was meant to be a surprise. And so the only thing that might have stood out there was Boniface Mwangi's son, that is Net Mwangi. So Net Mwangi spoke very well, and he spoke about his dad having brought them up. He spoke about having been raised in a household where they scarcely or rarely see their father, and coming to the realization that his father being away or his father being on the streets other than being at home did not mean that Boniface Mwangi was terrible at parenting or was a bad father, but that the love that Boniface Mwangi has for his children and his family made him go out to fight for a better Kenya. And I think that was a very powerful statement outside there. And it meant that Boniface Mwangi, while at it, has the support of his family, which is very important for a man who has decided to undertake such a big job, or undertake such a big journey. Boniface Mwangi is not new to politics. In 2017, Boniface Mwangi ran to be the member of parliament for Starehe. He was vying on his Ukweli party, and he was competing Jaguar and Steve Bogo. Yeah, so Jaguar beat the two, and Steve Bogo came second, with Boniface Mwangi coming third. So he lost that election, but that means that at least he has an experience in this field. But the big question again by his critics will be, if Boniface Mwangi could not clinch the seat for the member of parliament for Starehe, how will he then purport that he could run and win to be Kenya's president? So another strong point for Boniface Mwangi is that he is seen as the de facto voice for the Gen Zs. Over time, though the Gen Zs claimed that they were partyless, they were leaderless, and on all those other tags that the Gen Zs used to mobilize, over time we have seen some individuals or some figures who seem to be the heads or seem to give direction to the greater faction or the greater Gen Z faction, and Boniface Mwangi is one of those people. So Boniface Mwangi has been said to be one of the people that were at the forefront in organizing the Gen Z uprising in Kenya, or the pro-good governance uprising in Kenya. And so his entrance into Kenya's political space might be seen as one that will be backed by the youth, or one that will be driven by the youth to the end. But again, the question is, we have seen several individuals who were purported to be leaders of the Gen Zs and went to try to be at the forefront, to champion for the rights of the youth, or to champion for the interests of the youth. But these individuals quickly fizzled away or quickly disappeared from the public space. We have seen Morara Kebaso claiming to be a leader of the Gen Z, coming up and trying to register Inject Party. But after time, the Kenyan youth grew wary of him, or grew tired of him, and he had to disappear from the scene. We have seen Peter Salasia going around the country claiming to be another presidential candidate. His going around the country had a hype around the whole candidacy. But over time, this has also fizzled out. And so the big question is, will Boniface Mwangi really maintain the hype? Will Boniface Mwangi really rally the Gen Z behind him? Will he really convince the faction that claimed to be leaderless to follow him to the ballot? Yeah, so the biggest hurdle in Kenya's politics is numbers. As much as you'd claim to be a leader of Gen Zs and say that you want to be president, like Boniface Mwangi, like Morara Kebaso, the biggest challenge is, how do you rally the numbers? Kenya is a country where only political coalitions or alliances have been seen to take people to the State House. And so if you're going to come to the people solely on the boat that you are youth and that you have the Genesis behind you, then probably you are going to lose this election, because one, you need to rally the people from the coast. You need to rally the people from Rift Valley. You need to rally the people from Nyanza. You need Mount Kenya. And most of these voters are not as enlightened as we'd like to think. Most of these voters are not as angry as some individuals would like to think. And so the only thing that will whip them to go and vote is that, our tribal kingpin has endorsed this individual. And so the big question for Boniface Mwangi and like minds, the likes of Kio Mtata, the likes of David Maraga, is how do you come to form alliances or coalitions that bring you numbers to take you to the State House and bring the change that you purport to want to bring to Kenya?